Compass FM with Steve. In the studio today, we welcome back Bex Dollery from the Waimakariri District Council. She is the Ecologist in Biodiversity. G'day, Bex, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Great to be back.
It's nice to see you back in the studio. Thank you for coming in. You were meant to come in last week, but of course, things happen. People go down sick, but it's really nice that you come in today. So today, we're talking about what is backyard biodiversity and a pollinator path. What is that?
Yeah, so I thought we'd talk about this today because on Monday it was International Biodiversity Day.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So we have been doing a lot of thinking around what we can do to get biodiversity back into our urban areas, because normally when we think of biodiversity, we think of the birds and all of the animals and the plants that are out in the hills. But we've got it here in our urban space. And so what we're trying to do is plant up areas to attract invertebrates and birds and lizards and make paths through the urban areas so that we've got pollinators and wildlife all the way through our urban spaces.
So, hearing you, it sounds like what I do in my backyard could effectively create a path through the rest of my neighbourhood. I have lavender in my garden, and I do photography, as you know, and so a wee while ago I was sitting outside, lying on the ground with my macro and my camera, trying to get photos of these bees, but of course, giving them their respect that they need, because I don't want to get too close. And it's amazing how many bees were visiting, and they were literally so busy.
Yeah. That's right. When we're talking about our pollinators, we're definitely talking about those bees. But in a New Zealand context, we've got so many different pollinators. So we've got the bees that we see, but also moths and butterflies and beetles and birds. A lot of our birds are pollinators, and my favourite are the lizards, who also pollinate plants. And so we're trying to create these paths, like you say, from your garden through the streets, maybe to your neighbour's garden, all the way out to the hills where we know all that biodiversity exists.
That's so cool. I didn't know that lizards are pollinators.
Yeah, and we've got so many of them. You've probably got skinks in your back garden.
Oh, I hope so. I like seeing those, actually. I'd like to go, and maybe in my backyard, would it be worthwhile going and maybe turning over some rocks to see what wildlife or stuff that I have in my backyard?
That's right, yes. So in your back garden, if you have any areas of dead wood or, like you say, stones, you can turn them over. You might even find a skink just chilling under a rock. One thing that we really like to do is get rounds of wood, and you clear away all of the vegetation from the floor, and you just put this round of wood on the bare soil, and then within a week, 2 weeks, you'll be amazed at what you'll find under there.
How cool is that for the kids as well too, or so just cool for yourself to see where things are, and tracking, I guess, where the bugs are as well too. How did that tracking day go for you back a wee while ago?
The iNaturalist Day. Yeah, so I haven't looked up the results actually, but I know that in Canterbury we got lots and lots of records, and hopefully introduced a lot of people to the iNaturalist app as well,
which is free, and you can use that, and it helps you figure out what that spider is.
That's right.
For me, that's a spider thing. I'm like, is that spider a nice spider? I mean, all spiders, of course. Wow, actually, no. Some of the spiders may be not so nice, but it's good to know and be aware of what's in your yard, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, and you might be finding things that are actually quite rare in the rest of the country, particularly some of our little beetles. And they're so pretty. We've got some beautiful butterflies as well. So in your back garden, you can plant certain plants that will attract these butterflies.
Sorry about that, the old cough.
No.
Yeah, left over. So we've mentioned some pollinators, which is really, really cool. What are some other things that we can do to help increase biodiversity in our towns?
Yeah, so just as we were talking, if you've got a space in your back garden. It can be as small as a metre squared. You don't need a big space, but you can fill it with plants which are really attractive to our pollinators. So like you mentioned, lavender. We've also got a lot of native plants, and one of my favourites is, it's called wireweed, I think, or Muhlenbeckia, and they have these tiny little flowers which butterflies love, and our boulder copper butterfly, which is really rare, just loves that plant. And so just even putting that into your garden, maybe putting some dead wood, maybe some rocks, and also some water, because everything needs to drink.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that we often forget when we're creating areas for wildlife. Even just a little dish with some water in will go a long way.
Is it worthwhile even putting some sugar in the water for the butterflies and the bees?
Absolutely. If you have a shortage of flowering plants, then definitely sugary water is brilliant for invertebrates and birds. Yeah.
Now, and the other thing is too, if you have pets, maybe watch where you put that water so that you don't have a catastrophe on your hands.
Absolutely. We don't want your dogs eating the bees.
No. They wouldn't.
Vice versa.
Yeah, they wouldn't be very happy either at all. It wouldn't be a good look. In my backyard, we've actually been really lucky because, as you mentioned, pollination. We've obviously had birds drop seeds in our backyards because we've got natives popping up in our yard, which is great. Sometimes not always in the best place, but if I catch them, the plants obviously young enough, the trees, I can replant them.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant point. Yeah, the birds are amazing at spreading these plants, and we don't need to spend lots and lots of money when nature is doing it for itself, really. It's doing it for us.
So true. Hey, Bex, thanks so much for coming in. You're an ecologist in biodiversity from the Waimakariri District Council. Hopefully catch up with you next month as well too.
Brilliant.
Compass FM.